What do you think about
analysis.
his tweets, Richard's tweets? Do you think he knows something we don't?
I mean, from what you're saying, basically, is we're seeing, call it Richard, call it massive whales working together, or whoever's the powers that be that really love this ecosystem. They're making it happen. And from kind of what you were alluding to, there could be a chance that they have the information about the outcome, or if this little civil lawsuit's going to be thrown out, or if there's any information that who would have it, it would be the lawyers, it'd be the Richard Harts of the world. And you never know if any of his close buddy, old pal Whale could be chit chatting here and there, and making it work to our advantage. And so that's why I put out that tweet, like one where he says win. He's talking about win. I win, and then the next one, he released the first on October 14 before the pump. We were about 0.004 for Pulse, and Hex was 0.07. And now he comes out with this one on the 23rd-ish, and it was we won, right? So he went from I win to we won. And I tie that into the speculation of perhaps more information that he has received, right? And kind of celebrating that or pushing that without saying anything, but showing it on the charts.
I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, how could the SEC take Richard to court with respect to what happened with the XRP founders and the judge throwing that out, and also the SEC basically just cutting out? It's like this is the exact precedent that we needed the entire time. I think there's something behind these tweets, because I don't think from a logical standpoint there would be no reason for him to be so brazen in his language about price if he thought that he would be in court.
Just saw Richard, he tweeted about price, so I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think people are not really giving a lot of credit to Richard actually pointing out price right now. I think that's a lot bigger than people think it is.
The thing that I like most about Richard's tweet is he called for unity. He said Hexicans, Pulsicans, and Pulsexicans unite.
Yes.
And I think that there's a lot more to that than just some simple tweet. I think it's a call to action. Like, hey, now's the time. We got this SEC thing coming up. Everyone's got to get in there. There are little mentions here in the next 6 or 7 days. It's time to go. It's time to make things happen. There's awesome things coming. Let's all just come together right now. That's what I took from it. I loved it. I thought it was a great tweet.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to have unity right now. Hexicans and Pulsicans got like a double bear market. We got a double dose of like the worst bear market in crypto history. And so now to be off that lows is like, I think just so well deserved, and everybody who's here, good job.
Yeah, I think we're in for a pretty good time, guys, because we've been waiting for a long time, guys, and I'm excited to see it starting to turn around.
Holy cow! I just looked at it again. I haven't looked at it since yesterday. Like for the past few months, you just don't look at the price chart when we're in a bear market, right? It just helps your sanity. There's better things to be investing your time into. So I just went and checked it again, and we're almost at a combined price of 3 cents.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
It's wild, so wild. Yeah, it keeps blowing me away.
Have you seen the tweets with the Lamont Black lately about
Oh my gosh,
putting Hex in his classrooms? Apparently, there's a raised address for donations for his kids or his class where they could use Hex or Pulse. Not saying anybody should or shouldn't, but hey, if you had a spare 10,000 Pulse or whatever and you sent it to that address, odds are some college student in Chicago or wherever is going to start using Pulsechain for the first time thanks to Lamont Black.
Dude, I called him like Crypto Jesus earlier because, dude, he's doing God's work right now, guys. I mean, he's teaching Hex and Pulsechain in a college-level undergraduate class. Are you freaking kidding me? And now he's allowing the community to raise money to do a giveaway. And what does she say? A 2-page essay, right, about Hex or Pulsechain? And whoever wins the essay competition gets this. I mean, this is huge. In Crypto Class, if you don't know her, she's very reputable. Very, very reputable. 30 students in the class. Watch one student, like, if this gets out, one student gets like $100,000. That would be really cool, though.
Well, they commented that they started to see the Hex pump, and they, that's the thing. You start to see it in the lows. Just they'll keep their eye on it. Eventually, they'll start freaking out.
Yeah, dude, let's make these people rich. We want to make these kids rich, bro.
How many
Initially, Lamont Black says that it will be divided.
Okay, Rags, question for you and everybody on the speaker panel. Hex, Pulsechain, Pulsex, biggest and fastest pump.
Ooh, I would say that based
Hex.
off what we're seeing, I'm thinking that people are valuing Hex over everything else, and I've seen that
Yes.
multiple times over the past 4 or 5 months, which surprises me because it's not polling that way when I take these polls, but it's what's happening.
Less negative externalities.
Yeah, I think Hex, and then maybe the narrative that's being formulated right now is that Pulse Chain really is a longer play. So, maybe Hex takes the cake, but it seems like Hex followed by Pulse Chain, followed by Pulsex.
Well, look at the pumps. When Pulse and Pulsex pump 8%, Hex is pumping 15%. Highway told me months ago Hex has been the top performer, the top gainer at post Pulse Chain launch. When it pumps harder. Everything else kind of limp pumps.
While everybody's been distracted, I've been saying the whole time, like, people are going to recognize the value of Hex, and they're gonna turn back around and honor it.
Joe is here. Go ahead.
All liquidity bonds, so they're all going to move together. They're all going to move hard and fast.
Yeah, some will move harder and faster than the others, though. I do believe that. I'd have to look at the distribution of the liquidity. I got to see which one is heavier to really make an educated guess on that.
Let's look at the percentage of increase in price over the last several pumps and compare the price increases on Hex to the price increases on Pulse and Pulsex.
Yeah, it's like a 2. It's like a 1.5 to 1 is kind of what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to answer Vincent's question, what I think will pump harder, and I think it is Hex. Hex was created to fix the problems Bitcoin has. All right, has, not had, has. And then when you want to look at Hex, you have it on 2 chains, okay? You have an established, tried and true chain that's been up forever. Then you have a new chain that's just made that older, established, tried and true chain better. So you're going to have whales come in on the east side. You're going to see them diversify on the Pulse chain side, but it's going to be Hex. They'll scoop up bags of Pulsex most likely also, but Hex is the cream of the fucking crop when it comes to DeFi. And there is nothing else. Look, December 2nd, it's 4 years. Nothing else compares to this. Nothing. Maybe it's going to take that 4-year mark for people to really get it, but I think 24, 25 is going to be amazing for people. And I think it's all going to be centered around Hex. Yes, Pulse Chain is great. It's going to be great, but Hex is the king.
Guys, I just want to say I've onboarded pretty much everybody just more recently, and they're all hitting me up today. This feels good. This is what we deserve. So it's an honor to be here with everybody.
It feels so good to onboard people and then watch price go up. Like, we all did that at the beginning. Price went up. The thing was, we continued to onboard as price went down. So, like, I have people I onboarded 2 years ago who hate me right now. And I'm like, trust me, you're just earning your crypto stripes. It'll come back around. Keep dollar cost averaging. So, that 10 grand you put in, all you got to do is spend, $400 right now to get the same amount, so.
It's so hard to say, trust me, it just keeps going down, but we know where this is all going,
Absolutely.
Hey, was it a lie or was it like just a rumor that Gary was like resigning over the week? I know Katie posted something about that. I didn't do any video.
Look, I'll tell you the other side of what people are posting. So that because the SEC dropped their personal lawsuit against the Ripple CEOs, Brad Garlinghouse and whatever the other, Chris Larson, people are taking that to mean that it's over, XRP wins, now everybody else wins too.
The first thing that I'm going to bring up, which is the absolute most important thing, man, I don't know if anybody performed better in terms of overall engagement in this bear market than Hexicans. I don't know anybody else. I think a case could be made for maybe Bitcoiners, but they're so fractured and confused. I don't really know if I would, maybe we just stay with altcoins, we stay with DeFi. But even if we ventured out of DeFi, I don't think anybody else shakes a stick at what we got, man. I'm talking, we had Pulse Chain meetups this entire time. We had Hex meetups this entire time. If you want a really strong metric, we got 140 streamers who stream at least once per week about Hex. I don't think anybody else has that. And quite frankly, I could go into the tech. I mean, you could take a meme coin to $1 billion market cap like Pepe, and it's got no tech at all. But you could also take Hex who went to billions of dollars of market cap with an incredible community, and a Cadillac of a smart contract that is very, very well thought out. I could talk about that, but really I'm going to pin everything on the community here. And a lot of Hexkins made a lot of money, and it's not BS. I know this. I hang out with these people. I've seen these people. I've talked to these people. And we're one of the most well capitalized communities in cryptocurrency. And I also think that's why Pulsechain is going to be so successful as well, because we're all community funded. We didn't take VC garbage money. We're not beholden to our masters here. So we're taking the crypto world by storm, in my opinion, for those reasons.
Just because we've seen Hex do better than Pulse does not mean that we see this in the future, right? So we have Hex, we have Pulse. Hex was exceptionally oversold at a certain point, right? And we had a multitude of dumpers, and Pulse Chain has the hope of a new chain. Maybe nobody has gains yet, so they're still holding on for dear life. Whereas Hex, we got people up 50x at the low, right? So there's still some people taking profits, but they have cash and they believe. So there comes a certain point where they protect their investment. But if you look at how the liquidity pools are set up, we may see, instead of which one does better, which one takes turns pulling the other one up is more what I'm thinking. So this time around, we're seeing Hex pulled Pulse down, and then now it's kind of like pulling it up to some extent. But that doesn't mean Pulse doesn't replace and say, hey, Pulse next time pulls Hex up, right? And I think it already has done that if you were paying attention to the ratios, because when I went in Pulse to the max and then Hex was looking really weak, guess what I did? I went in Hex to the max. And then I pumped up the Hex price. And then I did it again. I swapped back into Pulse and I swapped back into Hex. And so basically I was creating this channel of pulling the Richard Hart ecosystem up step by step. And so you could say, yeah, Hex is pumping, but that's just a anecdotal 5-day, or, it's like it did, but it didn't, right? Like Pulse did, and then Hex did, and then Pulse did, and they kind of pulled each other. So that's more of what I'm thinking of in the bull market. Maybe you see a similar gain. It depends what point in the chart you're looking at, right? To compare which one to which. Right now, we can see Bitcoin is dominating Ethereum, right? Is it always going to? I don't know. But in the past, Ethereum did way better than Bitcoin. So maybe Pulse and Hex kind of act like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That would be interesting, right?
Yeah, dude, I completely agree with all that, man. Here's something also that I think we need to keep in mind. These are so closely reflexive right now, and I think that's because most of the liquidity is on a Uniswap V2 fork, essentially. And V2 is a whole lot different. V2, you have to put up both sides equally, and you have less variables involved than you would with a V3. So I think what we're going to see when all of these V3 forks come over to Pulsechain and liquidity starts piling up there is that I don't think that we're going to see things as reflexive, and we're going to be able to see much better how people partition their liquidity, because you're going to see a reflection of that in the price of the things that people like the most. So does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it could happen, but they're late movers, right? So although, the biggest portion of Hart's Law would be the biggest liquidity pools mean the most, right, to the Hart's Law. So maybe they have 10%, or something in these, but it's like the V3. I know what you mean. I mean, I think Richard Hart kind of liked the V3 in a way when he was playing with it, when he was kind of backing up the Hex price. But then it seems like he chose the V2 for Pulsex, and it kind of, I don't know if he was making a declaration like, hey, this is a little more fair because you got to put up your coins. You can't just say, hey, so, okay, when we're trading options, you're trading options trading in the stock market, and you start putting in these massive orders like I used to, and eventually you start to see like there is a whole lot of phantom liquidity, right? Like it's pretending to be there. You start to put in these big trades at certain prices, and guess what? These guys, these market makers they pull away from you, right? 10 cents, 20 cents, you lose your whole trade. It looks like you were going to make a big gain, and it was like, oh, that was all fake. They can see the real players, and then they move away because they don't want to give you that, right? So that's kind of how V3 is to some extent, right? It's like a whole bunch of people that can pick their prices, they move in, they move out, and it's not as heavy liquidity or as sticky liquidity as just, hey, you got to throw in on both sides. You can't cheat this, So I like both, but I do think that there's a like I call it the Pulse X, the miracle of liquidity, right? Like Richard Hart had liquidity, yeah, Uniswap, 2 million, 20 million, whatever was over there. It wasn't that great for hexagons compared to what we're doing on Pulse X and on Pulsechain. Like this is a liquidity mastermind going on, and it's going to be hard, even though those technologies come out, that it's going to be adopted in the wide scale. Maybe if the V3 came on to Pulse X, maybe in a year or two. I don't know,
Well,
like
dude,
V4, right?
you make an incredibly good point, and I didn't even realize this, but V3 also comes with a learning curve. So V3 is much more efficient and targeted with liquidity. But you're right about the phantom liquidity. How many times have you pulled up a V3 chart and you looked at the liquidity profile across price and you just see this stack of coins that's been sitting there for 4 months and it'll never be used or hit? So that's actually a really good point. V3 is better.
There's one with the OA. How about
Yeah,
this? There's one with the OA on Ethereum where the OA basically had a buy wall, and Hex pushed all the way down below that buy wall, and it cashed out
yeah,
completely. And now it just has a bunch of coins sitting there that if you try to go up, it basically the OA is going to be selling into the Hex price at a certain price, 2-3 cents, something
right.
like that. There's like a sell wall now where I don't know if it's ever going to get removed. That even the fees weren't even removed, and it's like $1.5 million or $1.9 million in fees. But it's a concept that yeah, you're right. Maybe there are some people who play it really well. They've been doing it on uniswap.hedron.pro, which is V3. They've already been doing that for 6 months, but it's just like a real small subset compared to just a lot of people are lobbing in their liquidity in PulseX and collecting their little farm yields and saying that's good enough for
Yeah,
me, right?
it's like going like Uniswap V2 is like fishing with a giant fishing net, and then Uniswap V3 is like fly fishing. So there's a very small amount of people who understand it.
It seems to me, right? And I'm kind of like got one foot in the ecosystem and one foot out, kind of. So it seems to me like there's like underlying tension from what I've heard and what I've seen on YouTube, Twitter, and chats between like maybe hexagons and some, I guess, Pulseans, or maybe hex and meme coins, or like. So I just wanted to say, like, is that an elephant in the room, or has it been addressed, or am I just misreading? And if I'm not misreading, wouldn't it be just better for everybody to just be like, okay, I'm on this side of the fence, I'm on this side of the fence, I'm on this side of the fence, but we in the same house,
Yeah,
so
no,
you know what I
I'll
mean?
tell you, man, you did a good job to pick that up. It absolutely is. It's an issue. It's infighting. It's family infighting, 100%, 100%. Now, you got to understand kind of where it comes from, and I'm going to do my best to try to explain it. And this is coming from somebody that hasn't been around Hex from the beginning. I hopped in late 2020, and I didn't get vocal about it with my group of people that I had before I got into Hex until 2021. So you got to understand that Hex was under constant fire by the crypto community at large ever since the beginning. And I'm talking about like the worst things that you can imagine people said to Hexkins. And it was a constant battle, and they're just fighting. I think at one point Richard he had enough of it, and he changed into the quote unquote Spartan. Okay, so he was going on stream. He was absolutely murdering people. So Hexkins loved that because they had somebody that was sticking up for them. The rest of crypto at large didn't like it because the things that he was saying was so different than what they were used to. For example, the whole volume thing. Hex didn't have a lot of volume, but it didn't need a lot of volume because a lot of people were staking, for example. But anyway, Richard was espousing things to get people unwrecked. So many Hexkins had gotten involved in so many different types of scams, just like everybody else in crypto prior to Hex. And Richard was showing people a different way. So as time went on and the Hex community grew, I think that a lot of people who still had, there was a big difference in values between the new people and some of the old people that had been listening to Richard for a long time. And I think it all boils down to the old people want the new people not to be wrecked. But the new people also, they say, well, I want to do it my way. This thing's permissionless. So there is that infighting 100%. I think it's going to die down because Pulse Chain is a new land. People can settle different corners of this land. They don't have to necessarily interact with each other as much. And it's very difficult for a layer 2 community to migrate to a layer 1 world. And that's what we're seeing right now. So, yeah, man, I think that's a very astute observation. I don't think many people would disagree about that feeling. They might disagree about my synopsis, but yeah.